we're going to look at three ways the brain repairs itself after injury. And not just the brain, this can happen in neurons around the body. One of the things that's difficult, our body has an amazing capability to repair itself, to recover from injury. It's happened to all of us. It's harder for parts of the nervous system. Neurons, particularly brain cells, have a hard time recovering from injury. It can be one of the reasons that things later in life, like Alzheimer's disease and dementia, happen, is because those neurons that we count on to perform particular functions have died or been damaged, and we can't repair them. But we want to look at a couple of ways the brain does repair itself. I want to encourage you too, once you get done with this, to watch the other videos that I'm going to put on the playlist for you. There's some amazing stories of the brain repairing itself. One in particular, I want to encourage you to take a look at a little girl who had half of her brain removed. Right? We talked about split brain theory and right hemisphere and left hemisphere, and talked about what those two separate things did. What happens if one of those is gone? And it's kind of a neat story just of some of the stuff that we're going to see. There are basically three ways that the brain is going to be able to repair itself. Now, think back or even look back to that drawing of a neuron that we talked about, right? Remember, information's coming in through the dendrites, hitting that nucleus, and then the pulse is traveling along the axon to the very end, to where the synaptic space is. And so, if there's something that happens, a traumatic brain injury, a stroke, a hematoma, brain bleed, something like that. Um, some of these times these axons can get damaged, which means that one nerve cell can't send that signal or can't communicate with the nerve signal or with the neuron that's next to it. And so what will happen sometimes is what's called collateral sprouting. And either the damaged neuron will grow new axons, or the axons of neurons that are close to the damaged neuron will grow new axons to kind of go around the damaged neuron and reestablish those connections. So it's kind of the same thing if you think about a road that's being repaired. If a bridge is being shut down or something like that, the traffic will be sent on a detour, right? May even be a little longer to get to where it's going, but they'll work around the problem area. And so that's what collateral sprouting is doing. It's trying to take those branches and reform those connections past the damaged area. Substitution of function is another one. We saw in a couple of the lectures we've done that different parts of the brain have different functions. They do different things. But if a particular area of the brain is damaged, other parts of the brain can pick up the slack. And so just because your right arm is controlled by a particular part of your left motor strip, that doesn't mean if you have a stroke that with training you can't relearn how to use that arm. And what people have seen is they put people under brain scans and a different area of the brain is now lighting up while those guys are while the guy is moving. And so what ends up happening is that the function goes somewhere else. And so that's the idea of substitution of function. The last one is something called neurogenesis. And neurogenesis is the creation of new neurons. Now you have got, there have been times in your life where there's been a ton of neurogenesis going on. When we're in the womb, when we're growing from little zygotes up to fetuses to fully formed human beings, nerve cells are being created like crazy in the brain. Billions and billions of them are being created in a process known as neurogenesis. The problem is that slows down. The older we get, Once you get up past kind of early elementary school, neurogenesis really slows down. And so one of the things that scientists are looking at is for ways to encourage neurogenesis again, to get people to reproduce neurons. If you've heard of things like stem cell treatments, right? One of the things that stem cells are cells that don't know what they want to be when they grow up, right? They're just kind of um, a cell that could turn into anything, and so they've tried injecting those into people's brains to see if they would become neurons. But the idea, or kind of the holy grail of a lot of brain repair, is what could we do um, to stimulate the construction of new neurons? So that'll be a way scientists are trying to do this kind of going forward. Got one more little picture I want to show you here, and it's the idea of um, what would happen in neurogenesis versus collateral sprouting, right? So at the very top, we've got a neuron that has been damaged, right? It's been cut in half. If it regenerated, right, that area with the red arrow would grow back out, and then it becomes a full neural connection again. Collateral sprouting, right, is the idea that that gets cut off, right? That's never going to happen the same way again. But again, something that's very close to it is going to branch off and take it into a different direction. So those are our three ways that the brain can repair itself. Like I said, this would be after a stroke, a traumatic brain injury, something like that. We would see these things start to happen.